I was so excited. I anticipated greatness, okay? And I've watched the show a couple of times, right? So here we have American Gods by Neil Gaiman, okay? And, since I have seen the show a couple of times, I got the book and I just couldn't wait. Just couldn't wait to read this book. And the moment I started reading it, I just thought, this is gonna be a book on my favorite list, and I'm gonna have to read it again and again because it has to be that good. Now, the beginning is, of course, great, wonderful, but here is what happens, okay? I don't know if it's page 200 or 300 when Shadow Moon goes to Lakeside. That is the precise moment when the plot, the book, it just falls apart miserably and I'm just being tortured. I don't know what happened. And maybe you can explain this to me. If this is your favorite book, or one of your favorites, do tell me why this book is so beloved. Okay, this book has a lot of praise. This book has won a lot of awards, and, I just cannot understand why this is, okay? Here is what happens. Neil Gaiman had a fantastic idea, a genius idea, an idea that maybe comes once in a lifetime for a creative person. Right? I mean, the idea, the plot of this book, it's just fantastic. And Neil Gaiman barely does anything with it. He has absolute gold here in every aspect, and he just barely touches upon it. Barely touches it. Right? And this is... Reading this book is a must for aspiring and beginner writers. This book teaches you what not to do. Okay, if you are an aspiring writer, you have to read this book. Okay, and here is the key. Just because you have a fucking crazy good idea doesn't mean that your job as a writer is over. Or it doesn't mean that your work is halfway done already. Just because you had an amazing idea. You have to, concentrate and put in the work and develop and polish the gold further. But Neil Gaiman doesn't do this here. Okay? Let's begin. The plot in of itself, it had so much promise, so much potential. It was limitless, and Neil Gaiman limited himself for some reason that I do not understand. Okay? It's just mind-boggling to me. I wish that I had an idea for a book like American Gods, and the author just, I don't know what happened. Of course, he was younger back then, in the late 90s, early 20s, or early 2000s, right? But still, he was already, a well-regarded writer. And yet, I just cannot fathom what has happened. Okay, the plot is just nothing. It's nothing. Of course, the book has its positive aspects, of course, right? But still, it falls apart. It's lackluster, substandard, whatever other word you want to use. Everything in this book is at his disposal, and he does nothing with it. And what do I mean by this? Okay, the plot is just nothing. It's just nothing. Okay? The moment Shadow Moon goes to Lakeside, the book falls apart. There's a whole lot of nothing. A whole lot of nothing going on. And then, at the end, God help us, something indeed happens. And even that revelation and that ending, it's just, again, lackluster, limited, suppressed, inhibited. I don't know how to explain it. It's inexplicable, right? It's inexplicable. And let me tell you this, with all of its faults, with all of its defects, with all of its negative aspects, the show is actually way better. Way better. Of course, it had an agenda, whatever, but the show simply is superior because at least the creators of that show dared to do something with the characters. They dared to do something with them, okay? Whereas here, Neil Gaiman just, I don't know, right? All of these amazing gods, all of these possibilities, and it's just scraping the barrel. Scraping the barrel, right? At least in the show, they try to, bring the characters together, develop some relationships, actually developing the characters, doing something with the characters. In this book, the characters, with a few exceptions, are just minuscule in terms of writing, in terms of what they do, in terms of personality. They're just barely, existing. Right? It's insane, right? The concept of this book, it just provides every avenue, every path. The horizon is limitless when it comes to what you can do with this book. And yet again, Neil Gaiman just did the bare minimal, whatever you want to call it. He has this outstanding cast of characters, and he does nothing with them. He does nothing with them, right? Here's what happens in the book with the character. With the characters. Shadow Moon is whatever, alright? He is whatever. As a protagonist, he kinda, he is lacking in certain areas. Wednesday, of course, he is the main star of the show. And, I don't find him charming. I don't find him to be, I don't fancy him, and the moment you learn that he's a swindler and a con man, and he does the first con with Shadow, at the bank, whatever. I was already getting tired of this, con man bullshit. All right, and of course the tricks with the coins. It's, I don't know. Anyway, but here is the main point: what he does with the characters. Here is what happens. Usually, a new god, a character is presented, and it's probably a god, right? And here is what Neil Gaiman does. Oh, you see this guy? He is Matt Sweeney, and there are all of these implications. Does nothing with them. We never see him again. He is shown to us in maybe a chapter, and then when we meet him again, God knows how far into the book, he dies in an alleyway, drunk, from the cold. He dies. Matt Sweeney in the book dies from the cold. We are presented, he is presented to us at the beginning, and then somewhere in another chapter, we meet him again, and then he dies, and that's it. We move along, right? We are presented with Laura Moon, right? She dies, she gets resurrected, and that's it. See you later. We never see her until way farther in the book, and then she dies as well. And I'm just like, what's happening here? Laura Moon is a nothing character. Mad Sweeney is a nothing character. Bilquis, the Queen of Queens in the book, is a nothing character. She is presented early on, then hundreds of pages later, she is shown to us again, and the techno boy runs her over with his car and she dies, and that's it. She is, yet again, another nothing character. Ibis and Jackal, the two gods. They are shown to us, they do their little funeral business, and then nothing else. Nothing else. They are nothing characters. Anansi in this book is an old man with lame jokes and even lamer stories. He is a nothing character, and we get nothing out of him. Okay? You know, remember the Zoraya sisters, and good old Chernobog. Wonderful characters. We are presented with them, and then way down the line we are shown, we see them again, and that's it. Even though I like them immensely, they are still nothing characters. Chernobog is so interesting, and Neil Gaiman does nothing with him. Yet again, nothing, they are nothing characters. So interesting. All of these gods and beings of divinity, they are so fascinating. The horizon is limitless, and the author does nothing with them. Alright? The antagonists, the new gods, okay? The new gods are nothing. Usually, we encounter Techno Boy, who is just nothing in the book. He is nothing. He is not even as annoying as his counterpart in the show. In the book, Techno Boy is yet again a nothing character that does nothing. And another antagonist is Media. So these two are the, main antagonists that we kind of see here and there. These are the new gods. That's it. Of course, later on, we read about, the gods of, trains and cars and industry and whatever. But they're nothing. They are nothing. A couple of lines here and there with these new gods. Where are all these badass new gods? In the book, they are not even one-dimensional characters. Right? Techno Boy is nothing. He's just this wimpy loser. And Media, she's just there, I guess. I don't fucking know. Right? And of course we have Mr. Town and Mr. I don't know. They're nothing. And then we have Mr. World, who is, of course, the Norse god Loki. And he, you're like, okay. It is revealed that Mr. World is Loki, and I'm like, okay, let's go. He's gonna do something, the story's gonna pick up, something crazy is gonna happen. Nothing. He is presented to us, he is like, he's telling Shadow Moon, yeah, it's me, I'm Loki, see you later. And nothing, he does nothing. The big reveal of this book is that Loki and Odin/Wednesday, they have been conspiring from the beginning to trick all of the gods and the old gods and the new gods to fight each other and to kill each other so that Loki and Odin can get that fucking energy from the sacrifice. And it's wonderful, but this is the problem. The way this book is handled is mediocre. Okay, I'm just gonna have to lay it down here. I'm all about the truth. Raw. The way that the book delivers is banal, mediocre, right? Substandard. And I'm just like, what the fuck happened? And let me tell you why I'm so passionate about American Gods. Because I myself, as a writer, I can see clearly that this book right here, had all of the ingredients to be a fucking masterpiece of epic proportions. This book could have been God tier, pun intended, right? Every ingredient for this book to be a masterpiece are here. And Neil Gaiman slaps them away again and again. Every opportunity, he just slaps them away. And I keep wondering why he has done this. It just, to me, as a writer as well, I just can't imagine why he has chosen this route. Okay, the way this book is handled is absolutely inexcusable. Inexcusable. And this is a tragedy. You know why this is a tragedy? Because this book right here, if it was written differently, if Neil Gaiman actually picked up all of the opportunities and occasions and did his job, his artistry accordingly, this book would have been a fucking outstanding work, a masterpiece. This book could have been a masterpiece, right? And this is the tragedy, because this book, in my opinion, overall is a bit stale, a bit bland, right? And it has so much praise. It has won so many awards. And listen, in this edition, we have all sorts of interviews and trivia. And apparently a lot of people were involved with the book. They gave their opinions. They added some suggestions to Neil Gaiman on how to write, or maybe he gave him some ideas. And Terry Pratchett and Alan Moore also read the manuscript. I guess they gave Neil Gaiman advice, their opinion on the matter. And you're telling me that Terry Pratchett and Alan Moore didn't look at this book and then look at Neil Gaiman and say, boy, you need to do something. You need to change something. Right? I'm being honest here. Sincerity is very important. You're telling me that Terry Pratchett and Alan Moore and other people, there are like 30 people that were involved in this book one way or another, giving opinions and such, reviews. And you're telling me nobody in this list of people with expertise or whatever, you're telling me nobody, just took the author aside and told him, listen, Neil Gaiman, you got something here. You got something amazing here, but you need to shape up. You need to focus. You see, while reading this book, I don't sense a passion. I don't sense a love. I don't sense an excitement from the writing, from the author. This book does not emanate, enthusiasm, right? This is what I think happened. He got this amazing idea and he wrote substandard stuff around this amazing idea. And this is not the way you handle a book, right? And listen, I've said this about a couple of books, one of them being Stephen King's Duma Key. And that book also could have been a fucking masterpiece of epic proportions, and Stephen King, I don't know what he was on. And this is what I imagine when I read a book like this that could have been a masterpiece. I imagine, the editors that were involved with all of these books that could have been masterpieces. I keep on wondering, none of them had the ability or the competence to go through the manuscript and call up Neil Gaiman and tell him, bro, you gotta do something differently. You gotta change something, bro. You got the Holy Grail on your hands, and you're doing nothing with it. You're kicking it around like a ball, and you're bored, right? You're telling me none of these editors, all of these people that handle these, top tier manuscripts, you're telling me not a single one, looked at this, read it, and just said, listen, listen, bro, you gotta, I don't know, you gotta change your act. You gotta, I can't find the words to express it, right? This is what I think a literary agent or maybe an editor of should do. An editor of a manuscript should read it and first of all make sure that this shit is amazing, right? Because let me tell you, if I would have been the editor of American Gods or Duma Key or whatever, I would have told the author, you got something here, but you need to focus. You need to put everything you have into the book and something needs to happen. There's nothing outstanding. There's nothing that grasps your attention. There's not a single moment while reading this book that you're just looking at it and you're like, holy moly. It does not happen. This is what a book should be. Right? And it's such a tragedy. I just cannot fathom what the events were that led to the decisions to write this book this way. It's just, I don't understand. And we have all sorts of characters here that are probably gods. Nothing really is explained. Some of these gods, we don't know who they are. And then some of the names of these gods are revealed. And I'm just like, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. This book is 700 pages long. And I'm just like, after Lakeside, it's just like, right? I just want to call it quits. There's this big deal about who is this anonymous god that a Shadow Moon meets. There's a character, he's allegedly some sort of god that's almost forgotten. We don't never hear his name. He's about money, about Las Vegas or whatever, casinos, and the moment you meet him, a second later you forget who he is. You're like amnesic for some reason, and there's this big speculation who this god might be. And here I'm sitting and I'm saying, I don't give a damn who this character is. This anonymous god is presented in a chapter. See you later. Why should I care about something so superficial? This is the problem. I don't care about any of the characters. I don't care about the plot or the events of this story one way or another. Oh yeah, remember Salim and the Jinn? You meet him in a chapter and that's it. See you later. And this is the cruel fate of pretty much every character. Whiskey Jack and Johnny Blue Jay or whatever, and the Buffalo God, and Easter. And it's like, here they are in a chapter, see you later. Shadow Moon has all of these dreams and premonitions, and nothing is explained. Listen, as a writer, you keep on hearing, show don't tell. In this book, nothing is told, and what is shown is vague, ambiguous, abstract, surreal, and because of this, I don't care one way or another. Listen, writers pay attention. Sometimes you have to tell. Showing, if done in this manner, this vague manner, this empty, hollow manner, it leaves a reader feeling empty on the inside. Sometimes you have to just tell it outright. Sometimes you have to tell shit, information, something, right? You can't just show, these random, abstract pieces of whatever, and you imagine that a reader is gonna look at this and go, yup, that's amazing. No, it does not happen. It does not happen, right? And listen. in the show, and I don't think that anyone can disagree with me, in the show, Mad Sweeney was the main character. Every other character sucked balls. Okay, Mad Sweeney was the fucking pinnacle of what an interesting character should be, right? Mad Sweeney to me in the show is the protagonist, and he is fascinating. I care about him. You know, you find out about his past, etc., and you feel so you care. This is what I'm trying to say. You care about Mad Sweeney in the show. They've done something amazing with Mad Sweeney, and you're like, even in the show, he dies in another way, and that's it. See you later. Never, I don't know. You can't, listen. I've watched a couple of videos, and in one of these videos, the producers of the first season of the show, they were like in an interview, they are saying, we wanted to enhance what is already in the book, right? And after finishing this book, I'm like, of course they wanted to enhance what is already in the book, because there's not really a lot in the book. Of course they had to enhance the show in so many ways, because in the book is just the bare minimal content, or whatever you want to call it. Of course they had to enhance the show. There's nothing here, right? Right? The characters are all they have no relationships. They have no connections. There's no development. There's nothing going on with any of these characters. No implications, no attachments, no nothing. Nothing's going on, right? Characters just come and go. They just come and go. Why should I care about Laura Moon in the book? She's nothing. She dies, gets resurrected. She's a stinking corpse, and she gets employed at a fucking gas station at night because she's a corpse, and that's it. And then she comes back in the end and kills Loki, and I'm just like, what is this? Right? I'm so shocked. I'm speechless. I'm so passionate about this book, and maybe it comes off as anger or, being a bit too ecstatic. I'm so passionate, and I'm criticizing this book so harshly because I'm a writer myself. And again, I see all of the potential. I see what this book could have been, the masterpiece. Without a doubt, this book, if handled differently, could have been an immaculate masterpiece, and Neil Gaiman just kicked it in the balls and said, see you later, right? And I think about all of these young writers who are trying so hard, and they don't get a publisher, and they just struggle, and maybe they have a masterpiece on their hands, and they never will get the chance to publish it, and they won't sell a single copy. And now we have this, worshipped and cherished and applauded novel, American Gods. And all I see here is a genius idea. I see a genius idea that was handled with the least bit of care, with the least bit of implication. And I keep thinking about Shadow Moon, our protagonist, right? And, of course, there have been other people who have criticized the protagonist of being a bit too bland, a bit too boring, a bit too depressing. He's a somber guy. He's a bit, he's a brooding type. And of course this is true, but I keep on thinking about him, and I see that there are layers, there are deeper things that Neil Gaiman didn't really address. Uh, why his name is Shadow Moon, for example, because of his mother was always moving from place to place, from embassy to embassy. Young Shadow Moon was only surrounded by adults, in embassies and such because of his mother's job. So he was, always following these strangers around. He never had any friends, I guess. He never had kids of his age around. So he was, I guess, shadowing all of these adults in embassies, and that's how he got the nickname Shadow Moon, because his real name is Balder Moon, right? So I thought that was a neat little detail that isn't really fully addressed, because we kind of get this idea that Shadow's childhood was kind of sad, kind of depressing, kind of lonely, bro, right? He didn't know who his daddy was. His mom kept moving around. He didn't have any friends, He was a quiet kid, right? And it's just, there's something there. There's more there. There is a lot more that Neil Gaiman could have done with Shadow, and he doesn't do it. And I guess this is because, as Laura Moon, his wife, tells him, she kind of has this idea that Shadow Moon is kind of dead while alive. Like, he is not really living. And I guess that kind of makes sense because of his sad childhood, he kind of is an empty shell almost, right? He's kind of hollow on the inside, and that's interesting, and a lot more could have been done about this aspect of Shadow Moon, right? And it never really happens. It never really congeals, right? And with Shadow, of course, I had to go. Actually, I was spoiled long ago that Shadow is actually the reincarnation of the Norse god Balder, right? And while I was reading this book, I was like, how did people get the idea that Shadow is Balder? And I finished the book and I was thinking about it, and I still didn't really get it. And then at the very end of this book, we have a little short story, I guess, where Shadow is in Scotland. It's a short little story. The epilogue to American Gods. Shadow goes to Scotland, and I guess it is revealed to us, the readers, that he is that he is Balder. And I'm like, so, where are the implications here? What does this mean? This is nothing. Yet again, this is nothing. Oh, he's Balder. See you later. My job is done as a writer. No, it isn't. What are the implications? What does this mean? Because, of course, Shadow's father is Odin, Wednesday. And, in the show, I always thought that Shadow's mother could have been a goddess that was almost forgotten as well. So she kind of met Odin, and they conspired to make Shadow, to, for whatever reason. And no, it's not. She was just some random woman that Odin hooked up with, and thus they produced Shadow Moon. And there's nothing else. There's nothing to keep you interested. It's a one night stand type of thing. And I'm just like, then why should I care? It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing, right? And of course, another main revelation is that Odin, conspiring with Loki, got the bright idea to make Shadow Moon in order to distract, I guess, the new gods or whatever. This is how I understood it. So Shadow Moon is a distraction for the new gods. It is mentioned again and again, and that is why Odin sends Shadow to Lakeside, because Lakeside is a special place, and it conceals Shadow Moon. And all the while, I keep on thinking, Shadow Moon is a distraction for what exactly? I don't understand this. A distraction for what? For what? Is he special? Why is he special? It's never told. It's never addressed. He is a distraction for the new gods, I guess, because why? There is absolutely no explanation. Therefore, the reader cannot possibly care in the least about any of this, right? All the while, even when I was watching the show way back, I kept on wondering, well, I guess Shadow Moon is special. Why is he special? And there is no answer. Absolutely. So, therefore, there's nothing special about anything. So why should anybody care as a reader of this book, right? Doesn't make any sense to me. And again, in Lakeside, there's some sort of god there or whatever, some sort of being, and this being kind of makes people disappear every winter for a long time. And I'm like, okay, this is something. This can lead to something really interesting, but it doesn't. So people disappear probably for hundreds of years in Lakeside, and there's nothing. There is no continuation. Yeah, this is exactly what I want to say about this book. Neil Gaiman drops, a little gold nugget, and he's like, well, I guess my job is done. There's no continuation to anything. There's no implication to anything. Right? This is the main problem with this book, right? Loki is finally revealed, and Laura kind of kills him, and he just dies, and that's it. And I guess he will be reincarnated. I don't know. I don't care. Laura Moon dies. I don't care. It's so empty. It's so superficial. I don't know what you can describe it as, right? And there are interesting little nuggets sprinkled about. And that's it. That's it. He just drops a little something, a little bit of sugar, and you're finally fucking interested. You're finally engaged. You're immersed. And that's it. Never again will any of these plot lines be enhanced or developed in any way, right? Like, I don't quite remember if it is said in the book, but in the show, the Zoraya sisters, or at least one of them, they are guarding, Ursa Major, because there's something big bad there, a big bad evil ancient that's sealed in the stars, and if it unshackles, then reality itself is doomed. And I'm like, okay, we got something here, and it's nothing. It's never, ever addressed again. And I'm like, bro, do I have to do some research? Do I have to study all of these mythologies, and all of these religious beliefs, paganism and such, to find some answers, right? All of the answers should have been in the book. And listen, my boy Chernobog, I like the guy, right? And I'm just like, they have this fucking checkers game, and it is unfortunately, decided that Chernobog's gonna swing his hammer and kill Shadow Moon like a sacrifice. And I'm like, okay, how is Neil Gaiman gonna fucking resolve this mess? Because Chernobog, I like the guy. He's interesting. He's fun. He's this sinister being, this entity of darkness. I like him, right? So at the end of the book, finally we have this bizarre resolution to the Chernobog hammer problem. Chernobog, he's like, okay, bro, forget about it. Forget about it. Because now Chernobog is happy, blah, blah, blah. So he kind of lets Shadow Moon go. But I'm going to forgive this lame resolution because at the end, finally, Chernobog is kind of happy. And I like that. A happy Chernobog is wholesome, okay? The main thing of this book is that Odin and Loki have tricked the old gods and the new gods to collide in a gigantic war, and Shadow Moon steps in at the last moment and he reveals the truth, and the gods, old and new, they're like, oh well, I guess we're done here, and that's it. And I guess, maybe some gods died in the war. A lot of them got wounded in this battle, but we don't see the fucking battle. We don't see. This is one of the main plot lines in the book, that this fucking war, this storm is coming. It's a brewing, and we don't even get to see the goddamn war. Now, it happens off screen, as it were. Now, Neil Gaiman, he just hypes this shit up. He says all of these fucking mythological creatures and beings and gods and God knows what else, they all come and they all congregate, and all sorts of beings with names you cannot pronounce. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. And it's just like, nothing. It's like it's hype without any payoff whatsoever. After every payoff or revelation in this book, you are just like blue-balled and kind of over it. So pretty much every god knows that Odin is just the worst scumbag ever. And for some reason, when Odin dies, he gets killed by the new gods. All of the old gods they're like, well, this guy was absolute trash, a fiend, the embodiment of just malevolence, but I guess the new gods killed Odin, so we're gonna, go to war over it. And I'm just like, okay, I guess, right? It's just every payoff that should have happened in this book falls flat on its ass, right? On its ass. And I'm just, and I'm just still traumatized because I still cannot explain why this book hasn't reached its apogee of being an absolute masterpiece. Right? And listen, I'm not a fan of this idea that, if a group of people here imagine a god in a certain way, then that god is born. But if another group of people imagine the same god, but a bit different, another version of that god is created. I'm not a fan of this. It makes sense plot-wise, it makes absolute sense. But because there can be so many versions of the same god, depending on the geographical, position and whatnot, the fact that there can be many versions of the same god, it kind of takes away from their divinity, from their special, unique aura, It's just my opinion. And in this short story, Shadow Moon, he goes to Scandinavia as well, I guess, and he meets a different version of Odin, and you're like, okay, this conversation that they're gonna have is gonna be mad crazy. You're gonna, Neil Gaiman is gonna make up for it, and he doesn't. It's just, again, it leaves you just like exhausted. I'm like, bro, do something. They have a conversation and that's it. Shadow Moon moves on. And in the short story, Shadow fights some creature and he almost dies, and then he survives and he's the same person as he has always been, and then he goes back to America and that's it. See you later. The story's over. And I'm like, right? Is this it? Is this it? That's it? Great. Right? And listen, when Shadow Moon gets put on the tree, to hold Odin's vigil on Yggdrasil, for I don't know how many days. And he just suffers crazy torture, he's unimaginable pain and such, and visions, and he passes out, and I guess through this, ordeal on the tree, I guess it is implied, that Shadow Moon is finally alive now. He has been dead all his life, empty, but now, because he has gone through this experience, he has arisen anew, and he I guess he has an appreciation for being alive, but by the end of it, he's the same person. He's still kind of this brooding dude, and I'm just like, okay, is this it? Is this it? Right? And the goddess Easter resurrects him, and I'm just like, and Horus is there, right? Horus has gone crazy, and now he's an eagle or a hawk or whatever. And I'm just like, and do something. You can't just say, oh, here's the god Horus. He's crazy now. See you later. Right? You can't just say, right, here's Matt Sweeney. He might be, he was fucking the sun god, and then he just dies in an alleyway like some fucking drug addict, right? And Bilquis, right? There's no punchline, there's no backbone, there's no metal, there's no energy, right? There's nothing, there's no momentum, there's no vitality whatsoever. Here's Bilquis. She gets run over. At least in the show, they tried to do something with these goddamn characters, bro. Now, the show wasn't perfect, of course, but goddamn, they at least did something. Whew. Right, goddamn, this book is bland, bro. Bland, like cardboard. Cardboard. Right? Unfortunately, it is unfortunate. I consider this novel to be a tragedy, right? A tragedy. And this has always been in the back of my mind, in the show and in the book. Shadow Moon being a god, or a demigod, I don't know, because his mom was mortal, but he is the reincarnation of Balder, and he is Odin's son, so is Shadow Moon a god, a demigod? What is he? Right? But it has always been in the back of my head. Shadow Moon has these visions, these premonitions, the bone orchard. In the book, he climbs like a pyramid of skulls, human skulls. And after a while, we find out that all of these skulls in his visions, they are his skulls. All the skulls are the skulls of the god Balder. And I'm like, okay, fascinating. And it's like, bro, do I have to research Norse mythology to understand what the implications are that all of these skulls are Balder's skulls, ergo Shadow Moon's skulls, because he is Balder, right? So, a question, in Norse mythology, has the god Balder died a bajillion times? What is the tragic undertones here? What is subtly implied? I don't get it. All of these skulls are Balder's skulls. And nothing, right? and on it goes. Such a tragedy. If you want to be a writer, people, all of you young people who aspire to be a writer, you have to read American Gods, because it teaches you what you should not do, right? Just because you have an amazing idea doesn't mean your job is over, right? And this is my personal advice. when you're writing a story, it's difficult, of course. It takes a lot out of you. But if you're writing a story, always strive for the absolute height of everything, of story, characters, descriptions, whatever. Never settle for less, like Neil Gaiman unfortunately did in American Gods. Never settle for less, because it is difficult to write something amazing. Always strive for the pinnacle. Whenever you're writing, ever, every time, always. Never settle for less, because if you settle for less, you create a boring book and boring characters. Do better, strive for more, be dynamic, be invested. Pour your soul into your book and you will create a masterpiece. Okay, American Gods could have been a masterpiece. It is not. And that is sad as hell. But that's about it. If you wanna support your boy, I got a few books of my own on Amazon. The link will be down below. You can search Griffith Samsara, or you can click the link below. Thanks for watching. Keep on reading. See ya.